All right, Catherine, right? Where are we? What are we doing? What is
We
this?
are here for episode 2 of Two Things with Two Pastors.
You are a pastor,
You are
as
a
am
pastor.
I.
We didn't say that last time.
No, we didn't. We are the pastors at First Christian Church McKinney.
Yes.
And we're here with our two things. Every week we come with a thing about just rando whatever to talk about. And the other thing is a church thing of some sort. And neither of us know what the other one is bringing. So today's surprise topics. I'm bringing the life thing. Catherine is bringing the church thing. And my life thing is this. It's about to get invasive. Who's ready? What is the smartest and dumbest thing you have done with money? You want me to go first so you can think about it?
Yes.
Okay. The smartest thing I've done with money is that Annalisa and I got married at 22, and we, at that point, actually right before we got married, started using her parents' financial advisor. That financial advisor had done very well for them, been really smart, and told them to do good things. And so we started using them, and one of the things that so that was smart, but we actually did what they said. And so I have, for the last 20 years, been putting money every month into a Roth IRA, which is not something that would naturally occur to me, because you could buy a lot of really cool things with that money.
Yes.
But I also am going to be old. And so
What are some of the really cool things you could buy?
Oh man, the boats I could own. Oh, vacations I could have gone on. The fast food I could have eaten.
Yeah.
But so that's, I think, and that's not really I did it. It was more like I was told to do it, and I was like, okay. And but smart. Glad I did it. Still put money in there every month, and because I will get old. I think.
Hopefully.
If I'm lucky, I'm gonna get old. So I'm gonna have to pay for getting old.
What's your dumbest thing?
My dumbest thing. Well, I did say boats. I have owned a series of boats. I would not say that was dumb. It is money that you spend that you don't get back, but it is fun, and I enjoy that. However, in the vein of vehicles, I have, over the course of my life, owned a series of mopeds. And I would say that those, yeah, it's true.
Why don't you have one anymore?
Just because
McKinney, Texas isn't built for mopeds.
In my financial reflection, it is in the category of dumber things I have done with money is own a series of mopeds over the years. So I don't own one right now. Probably won't ever own one again.
Yeah.
Probably because I bought bad ones, or or owned them in places like I had one in Fort Worth, and it just wasn't. Too many hills, too many 40-mile-an-hour zones that people drove 50 in, and a moped that wanted to do 27. Just not a safe plan. So no speeding tickets. I got that going on. At least not
on the moped.
No, I mean in life I've gotten plenty, but not on the moped. So smartest retirement money that I continue to save. Dumbest series of mopeds I have purchased.
I guess you said this was an invasive question. My smartest financial decision ever was to marry someone with a master's in business.
Oh, good. Yeah, I kind of did the same thing. Yeah.
that knows what a Roth IRA is. Who, he just knows these things and enjoys researching these things.
Cheers to marrying up.
Yes, and I think my dumbest financial decision is, you just convince yourself that you really need something from Amazon. My life will just so much improve if I buy this, lipstick organizer, or this cool dress or something. And you look back on the purchases and you're like, that was dumb. And even though it was only $10, $10 items, it was $100.
Oh, it sounds like you're the one with the master's degree in business.
Yeah. Sex and the City, Carrie looks and she's like, where's my money? And the smart Miranda looks at her and says, well, how many pairs of $400 shoes do you have? 1,000. That's $40,000. Never spent that much on shoes, but it adds up. One little thing will add up to be a big thing, over and over and over again. I've never had a moped.
Is 1,000 times 400 40,000? Pretty sure that's 400,000.
I don't remember what the click is. Math is hard. I told you I married someone with the math.
Well, okay, well, nice reflection, everyone.
Yeah.
No shame, no shame. I mean, money, gets spent in smart and dumb ways, accidentally, on purpose.
And sometimes you have to learn, you have to learn your own lesson as well. Yeah.
Well, and I think we also, not every dollar that we spend is to be invested and returned.
No.
Money gets spent on things that you consume or enjoy or
Yeah.
regret or whatever. And you don't want to spend every dollar where it's consumed. But it's okay if sometimes dumb things happen with our money.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, are you ready?
Very.
Okay. I made some jots down on the bulletin on Sunday. For the record, I listened to the sermon twice, every single Sunday. The saying should be preaching to the associate minister, not preaching to the choir, because the choir still only hears it one time. Okay, so I want to talk about, I set the parameters kind of clearly.
Okay.
I want to talk about denominations. What are they?
Ooh.
Why do they matter? And we're not going to get lost in our denomination. I'm just saying that. We're going to talk about our denomination later. Okay? Okay, so if we look back, ever since Jesus died 2,000 years ago,
And resurrected.
and then came back, and then left again, we have been fighting about what he said.
Right.
We've been seeking the truth of what it means to be a Christian. You can even look in the New Testament that Paul and Peter don't get along. They disagree. And so there's this umbrella that is the Christianity, and then there is so much underneath it. Bam, 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 bam. And then there's more umbrellas, and more umbrellas. And then there's tiny little umbrellas, even underneath, this overarching umbrella. And you can look back and you can say, well, I'm looking at my, even in the Council of Nicaea, 325 BC. No, CE, not BC, not before Christ.
They were ahead of their time.
They were even arguing about things then. So there's never been a time that all of the umbrellas of Christians have gotten along. And so now when you're driving down the street in, City, USA, there's a First Christian Church, there's a First Baptist Church, there's a First Presbyterian Church, there is a First Methodist Church, there is a fancy name church, Table Church Incorporated.
Adjective church,
Yes,
verb church.
yes. And so what do all of those mean, and why do those matter? Because I could even say, worshiping in some of those churches, you couldn't even tell that they're different, right? Like they still worship from the same hymnal, they'll still read the same scripture, they'll still, all be doing some sort of Bible study on Romans, and then they'll all be having fellowship dinner, and they all celebrate Easter, and, so why do they matter to us now? What are they? Why do they matter to us now? Is my question to you.
Ooh. Well, they're certainly, as you said, the product of,
Disagreements.
disagreements. Or, if you wanted to put a more charitable spin on it, you could say that they're the product of points of clarification.
Yeah.
A lot of the differences, you could walk into a United Methodist Church and hear a sermon that could very easily be preached from the pulpit here.
Yeah.
You could walk into, any number of mainline Protestant denominations, like you said, and have a similar experience. And when you get into the difference, which is not untheological, it has theological implications, but a lot of the differences among the denominations are like behind the curtain.
Right.
So, organizational structures and authority of clergy. So like most other mainline Protestant denominations, their clergy have way more authority than you and I will ever have.
And they're like higher up, they're higher ranking, have more authority. So like there's other churches where they put the pastor in that church. They assign that pastor there, or they have the authority to sell the building, or they have the authority to, I don't know.
But your question is, why do they matter, and why do they exist, and what purpose do they serve?
Yeah.
I guess I would go back to the more charitable explanation of clarification. Clarification of identity and theological priority. So you get into, so for instance, like one of the big things that would separate the Christian Church Disciples of Christ from, say, the United Methodist Church is the United Methodist Church is a global church. Like that's how they understand themselves as like, you know, this, like, you know, they are individualized congregations, but they are part of the single, and not to say that disciples don't believe in like the universal church, but you know, it's a very different understanding.
Right.
And so like their practices and procedures, and like you said, how clergy end up in churches, their rules, for lack of a better term, are very unified.
Yeah.
And, you know, we don't have that.
Yeah.
You know, we understand localized expressions of the body of Christ differently. And so, you know, I think those kind of behind the curtain things, you know, they have, on one hand, you could go to church on a Sunday morning, not know it was there, and have no idea.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, like over a period of time, they do have fairly substantial impact on what a church becomes.
Yeah, so then thinking about people who have joined our church in the last 5 years, though, with the exception of one person that I can really think of off the top of my head, there's a huge difference in those who are over 50 have come to our church because they have denominational history.
Yes.
And those who are under 50 meet the community and want to be a part of the community because of the people.
And then find
learn
out.
about the
Yes.
denomination. Yes. And I can see that the future of like, let me just go find my local denomination church is dwindling, leaving, gone, maybe.
No, and I have seen that too with, probably Gen X and younger, that the ones that do come check us out, as a result of our, you know, they grew up in a Disciples of Christ church, they moved to town and they're going to come check us out. They're only checking us out because of the...
Just the door is open.
Right,
Yeah.
the door is open, but if they came here and it was lifeless or the sermons were boring or there was some toxicity going on, they're gone. Like,
If it smells bad.
right, yes. That denominational tie would get them in the door, but it definitely does not keep them here.
Yeah.
And I think that's definitely, so I think there's generational differences because, you know, in a previous, you know, my wife's grandparents met at Iowa State University in the late 1940s, moved to Huntsville, Alabama after my wife's grandfather graduated with his PhD. They moved to Huntsville, and like Sunday one, they're at First Christian Church, like, because that's what you do. Like, that's what they did. That was the only place they were going to go to church, was the Disciples of Christ Church. And, you know, that just doesn't, and I think, frankly, I think that level of loyalty actually over a period of time, especially in the second half of the last century, did us a disservice. Because we didn't have to be good. We didn't have to be clear. We didn't have to make sense or be well organized. We did not have to like capture people's imaginations and interest. We didn't have to intentionally build community because that dedication to the brand basically brought people there whether they wanted to be or not.
Yeah.
Or whether, you know, there was no spirit of curiosity on the part of that denominationally loyal person if they did move to a new town to go, well, let's see what the churches are like in town.
Yeah.
No, we're Presbyterian, so we're going to look at the 2 Presbyterian churches in town and pick one.
Yeah.
You know, and so I do think there's an extent to
So
which.
now, if we are churches that we are recognizing that the loyalty is not there as much, so we don't want to lead with, hey, this is all of the things that make us our denomination. Like, here's our symbols and our insider language and our XYZ ABC thing that, you know, someone's not going to know, they're not going to understand.
Oh no,
They're
you
not
don't.
gonna care.
We don't lead with it. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't. Some people have gone away from it, right? There's
Yeah.
some denominations, particularly because of their, you know, their public baggage.
Yeah.
You know, have I won't go naming names, but have tried to stop using some of their denominational language in their church names and stuff. I'm not gonna hide the fact that we're a part of the Disciples of Christ. I mean, I'm as old-timey disciple as they come.
Yeah.
But I know that like leading with that, it just doesn't register with people. Like that's not the first question or even the fourth question they're asking.
Mm-hmm. So the last thing that I was thinking about is that when, like, we have a tie to denomination because that's our legal tie. Like, we're not just this independent church. Like, we have a legal tie to the government recognizes us as a church because we are tied with the Christian Church Disciples of Christ. Because we're tied with, and that's part of the why be a part of a church, of the denomination, is that, like, taxes. Taxes and, you know, that kind of complicated piece. Because there are some places where you could just literally, hey, I'm a church now. Welcome to my church.
Right.
The Catherine Wright Temple could be started tomorrow.
What time do you worship?
1:23 a.m.
I'm out. I'll watch online at a later date.
Okay, let's look at the rest of my bulletin notes. I think we hit it all. Yeah.
Well, but to that end, about like about connection, and I mean, yeah, there's the legal aspect of it. There's the shared. I think there's a lot of it that's shared history. You know, I mean, we're not, you know, in our tradition, we're not networked. We're not, you know, inseparably bound by very much.
Yeah.
And so it's all a choice, and you know, it's honoring the history from which our tradition came, and you know, recognizing that, you know, different locations and different you know, churches are interpreting that history and applying that history differently, and those churches are becoming different things, which is not in and of itself a bad thing, but you know, I think there is a tension in asking that or in answering that question of, like, you know, why are we still this thing? Yeah. Why are we still, you know, a Christian Church Disciples of Christ congregation? When we don't have to be. I mean, from a, you know,
I mean, it makes it easier legally.
Yeah, we're not, but I mean, we're not bound to it. No. You know, we're congregationally governed. We could take a vote tomorrow. Well, not tomorrow. We could call a meeting. It would take some time. We'd have to announce it.
10 business days.
But I can't think of any good reasons why we would do that, because the things that our tradition stands for are things that, for you and I, as pastoral leaders of this church, are things that are central to our pastoral leadership. The things that the church stands for, of having kind of a big tent and an open table and a spirit of welcomeness that is rooted in experiencing God and Jesus. Like, you know, since that's where this church has historically been, that's where its leadership has historically been, it just makes all the sense in the world that we would continue to thrive in relationship with that denomination.
Right. But that's just ours. Some have more authority than that.
Right.
Yeah. Which, I don't know if I could ever be a pastor at that kind of church. I like the autonomy. I like the relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it is, I mean, I think that speaks to what I like about our tradition is that it is a choice. Yeah. It is, I mean, it is on purpose, and it is
covenant.
And it has wrinkles, right? And it has complications, and it is not perfect by a long shot.
Yeah. But none of them are, and if any of them say they are,
right.
They're not right. All right, well, that's it. I drew a bunch of umbrellas on my bulletin.
Oh, nice.
Okay. There is just a bunch of umbrellas.
Yeah. But, I mean, that's not, as you pointed out, that is not inconsistent. I think people point at that and go, oh man, the church is so fractured. And I mean, I'm not going to argue that it's not fractured, but
the first time it fractured, I looked it up, the East and the West separated in 1035.
Right, but I mean, they're even arguing about circumcision in the book of Acts.
Yes.
And like, arguing, you know, I mean, even the disciples were not all on the same page.
It wasn't Martin Luther that ever did the first
I
split,
mean, hey, he gets a lot of good cred, you know. I'm not here to dog on Martin Luther. But, you know, this isn't like anything new, and I don't look at denominational existences and the diversity that you know, the breadth of like theological perspectives. I don't look at that as a bad thing.
No.
Again, going back to my sort of charitable view of clarification, it helps people understand where they might be able to fit within the Christian community.
Yeah.
And find belonging.
Right.
So,
right.
Good stuff. Good question.
Yeah. Money and denominations.
We can talk about.
Sounds like way different than what we actually talked about.
We can talk about that later too.
All right, friends. Well, thanks for joining us today. Thank you for your suggestions. If you have any more suggestions on topics, church topics, not church topics, please let us know.
Great to be together.
Yes.
Thanks for giving us a listen.
Yeah.
We will see you next week.
Goodbye.